Welcome to Wednesday Night Satsang. This Sunday will honor the seasons of life. Divine intelligence underlies all physical reality. The creative energy of spirit cannot be created or destroyed, but it always changes form. When we are attuned to this principle and to the rhythms of nature and life, we can move gracefully through change instead of fighting it. It's part of the human experience to spend time and energy avoiding what we consider negative experiences or emotions. However, all these experiences and our emotional reactions are part of the spiritual path. Acknowledging and accepting our experience becomes part of the domain. Let's start by naming them. Animal Kinship Ministry is accepting dog and cat food donations for Animeals. Drive to the church drive-thru this Sunday between 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m., and volunteers will accept your donations. Thank you for helping our furry friends in need. If you love to connect with amazing people and have meaningful conversations, we have the perfect opportunity for you. Help us reach our goal of 50 spirit groups this fall by hosting a virtual group of your own. You don't need to live in the Houston area to participate. Join us for an engaging host information session this Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. and find out what Spirit Groups is all about. The path of the Bodhisattva is centered on using one's life to relieve suffering and to spread the circle of love and compassion in all encounters with every breath. One of the most powerful concepts in our teaching is how to serve the world with all we are. Join Reverend Karen as she shares this teaching on how each of us can touch a moment of the Bodhisattva's path with awareness and open-heartedness. World Day of Prayer is September 9th, and you're invited to fill out a prayer form in person or online at unityhouston.org. Each name you submit will be prayerfully acknowledged in our prayer service and at Unity Village. You can also participate in Unity's World Day of Prayer Vigil on Thursday, September 9th. This silent Unity tradition of more than 100 years of continual prayer has impacted millions of lives around the world. Visit our website or go to unityprayervigil.org for more information on participating in this sacred vigil. Namaste.
Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday Night Satsang. We're so glad that you're with us this evening. Just invite you now to center yourself, the sound of my voice, by taking a deep breath into your body, right where you're seated, just as you are. And let go with the out-breath anything that is heavy or contracted, constricting, anything that's worrisome, anything that's heavy, just set it aside. Don't even think about it. Just let it go. And with your in-breath again and out-breath, just simply allow yourself to just flush away anything that is a burden, and breathing in light. Breathing in love, breathing in life itself. And so we simply allow ourselves now to feel the movement of life and light and love, allowing spirit to embrace us and surround us, to infill us, and above all, connect us, heart to heart, that no matter how much distance may be between us, the sound of my voice now connects us in real time as we are, even as you hear it now. You are here with us. You are present. And we allow that all all that is between us is love and peace and wholeness and joy. And we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
As we move into our time of chanting, allow this music to be a healing balm for your soul. Whatever has arisen this day that has caused fear or judgment or criticism, we have the opportunity now to switch our regard. Be gentle with yourself. Let's sing together. I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child.
I will be tender with my heart. I will be tender with my heart. And I will hold my heart like a newborn baby child.
I will be tender with my heart. I will be tender with my heart, and I will hold my heart like a newborn baby child. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I will be easy on myself. I will be easy on myself. And I will love myself like a newborn baby child. I will be easy on myself. I will be easy on myself. And I will love myself like a newborn baby child. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself, and I hold myself like a newborn baby child. I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself, and I hold myself like a newborn baby child. Feeling that peace unfolding greater and greater ways, we move to this Tibetan Buddhist chant, Teata Om mantra. It's a mantra for the healing of pain, feeling of depression, of all suffering of all beings. And the intention of this chant is that all beings who are sick be freed from pain, and that all sicknesses of beings never arise again. Never arise rise again. So let us hold that awareness, hold that prayer as we sing together. Te ataum bekanse Mahabekanse rasa samudgate soha. 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 Te ataum bekanse Mahabekanse rasa samudgate soha.
Let's turn our attention inward now for our time of meditation. Closing your eyes and gently turning your attention to your inner awareness. To becoming aware that you are sitting, body, sitting, feeling your connection with the support of the chair or cushion beneath you. Having a comfortable seated posture and centering into the anchor of the breath. Allowing the breath to relax. Noticing the uniqueness of each breath as it flows in, as it flows out. how it feels in the body. See if you can let go in the belly. Open up some space around the heart so that you can breathe more freely through your heart, through your chest. Free movement of the breath. I invite you now, as you've become centered in the awareness of the breath, to turn your attention now to anything that you've been struggling with, any hurt, any fear or grief or shame that you may be feeling or holding on to. You may use your breath to breathe in and touch into the feelings that you may be holding. Feelings of vulnerability, becoming a holder of your experience, of your suffering. Breathing in and touching into the feelings. Breathing out and sensing the greater space of awareness that is holding your experience. Noticing where you're feeling sensations of the feelings, where in the body. Just bringing your mindful attention to that area or areas. Just making that experience welcome. How often we resist anything uncomfortable that may arise. In this sacred space of meditation, safe to express the fullness of these feelings, just allowing them to open up and reveal themselves in a greater way in your body and mind. And so noticing the place within you that is feeling the most vulnerable in this moment. And begin to offer care to this place within you. You might say silently to that feeling, "May I be free from suffering. Suffering. May I be free from suffering." You could even say to yourself, as Thich Nhat Hanh suggests, "Darling, I care about this suffering." Lovingly regarding yourself, "Darling, I care about this suffering." And if you're aware of the feeling and you can name it, you may choose to be more specific in your prayer. May I be free from fear, or may I feel safe and at peace. Offer your caring prayers to these feelings as you give your loving attention to yourself. You may also choose to take a physical posture of care by placing your hand on your cheek or on your heart, allowing yourself to feel the tenderness of your own touch, to express compassion for yourself, for this experience, being the holder of your suffering. Just become aware of how your heart is feeling as you hold this suffering now. Feeling more tender, more open, more loving? Or as you're with this feeling, do you feel blocked or numb, going through the motions? If you're feeling disconnected, feeling distant, simply affirm your intention to be present to this experience, to be kind, to continue to offer care and tenderness without any judgment. If you have a genuine intention to express compassion for yourself, engage this practice, the more your heart will soften and open naturally, without efforting, just freely dropping in to compassion. Just notice now as you've extended this care to yourself, notice how the sensations and the feeling of the emotional pain has changed. Do the feelings become more intense? Do they begin to subside? Every experience is unique, so simply noticing how it's unfolding in you now. You may find that as you've allowed yourself to be tender, to be open, to embrace yourself, a deep sadness may arise. Whatever you're feeling, I'm going to hold that pain with the same presence, the same tenderness that you would hold a newborn baby child. A small child that is frightened, that's beloved. Feeling gratitude for this opportunity to experience the movement of divine love as you've opened up some space around some pain, around some hurt, to let the healing unfold. Feeling in the flow of the healing divine energies of love, of peace, of light, of harmony. Become aware of the body now, once again, feeling your connection with the floor beneath you, the seat supporting you. And when you're ready, in your own Gently allowing light to enter into your eyes as you open them a small bit. Start to take in the space around you. Noticing what is here now. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Jeanmarie. Beautiful, compassionate exercise for ourselves. It was wonderful. Thank you. A way for us to practice and feel caring for ourselves. And it's so fascinating how when we do that, we can actually be the giver and the receiver and feel both if we're paying attention, you know. Can feel that flow in and also the flow from your hand, perhaps on your heart. So in this same way, we are now at the place in our service where we are prepared to give into the ministry that serves us. And so as members of it, we are also representatives of its giving. And as members of it, we are also the part of where the resource comes from so that the ministry flows. So in the same way that we just practiced with compassion, now we give with generosity. And so I invite you now, as you prepare your gift, your offering for this time together, that you can use text to give or electronically on our website, but we also will be collecting anything in solid form that you care to share with us here in the sanctuary. And so as you prepare your offering, prepare your heart by breathing into it and blessing the gift by calling it by its name. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive, and so it is. Amen.
There is a light that guides you through the storm. There is a place of healing and calm. There is peace, a peace that lives beneath the weight, beneath the sorrow and the joy. There is a stillness and grace. Your tears like rain while falling from the sky. It is God's love that's pouring from your eye. The wounds of life, they bring healing, my friend. The heart that breaks is but opening again. There is a light that guides you through the storms. There is a place of healing and calm. There is a peace, a peace that lives beneath the waves, beneath the sorrow and the joy. There is a stillness and grace. Your tears like rain are falling from the skies. Well, it is God's love that's pouring from your eyes. The wounds of life, they bring healing, my friend. The heart that breaks is but opening again. The heart that breaks is but opening again. Your tears like rain while falling from the skies. It is God's love awakening your sight. The wounds of life, they bring healing, my friend. The heart that breaks is but opening again. The heart that breaks is but opening again. The heart that breaks is but opening again. There is a light. There is a light. There is a light. There is a light.
Thank you, Todd Silva. We're so blessed to have you with us tonight. Anthony White on piano. Thank you, Anthony, for being with us. And Reverend Sonia, thank you for being with us. She'll be with us for the spiritual dialogue part of our service. David York is home resting. Hopefully he'll be with us again next Wednesday. So David, I want to say to you what you said when I was out once is it takes 3 people to replace you. So we look forward to having you back and blessing you. So welcome once again, everyone. So glad you're here in these interesting times where we're meeting and we're distanced and we're wearing masks and we're honoring each other and our needs and staying safe. And so I want to invite you, now that we've opened up in the meditation, we've opened up to the suffering, the pain, whatever's going on. This just seems to be a time that's ripe for healing, isn't it? Where we're being perhaps even pushed to our limits and what we can handle with change, another different way of doing things. And this year, sending my daughter off to kindergarten, and everyone's wearing masks, which is great. Like, we want that, and it's different. It's like, oh, okay, this is what kindergarten is for her. You know, this is what 2021 is for us. It's like this. So I ask you to consider how you're regarding this experience within yourself. How do you regard yourself in the experience of situations where you feel vulnerable, where you're pushed to the limit, or where you're having to move through stress and get through it because that's what needs to be done, or supporting a family member or a friend who has COVID, or maybe many people you know. And you just recognize your self-talk and your feelings. We tend to have a negativity bias, don't we? That we want to respond by venting, right? That feels good, it feels good to me, to just kind of, let it out. And we tend to look for what went wrong, constantly looking. That's this primitive part of ourselves that kept us alive when the lion, the tiger, the bear came to hunt us. So we knew to hide or to defend ourselves, that kind of thing. It's a survival technique. So just noticing when you're in a difficult situation, do you trust yourself? Are you critical of yourself? Are you your own worst critic? Particularly when you're stepping out on a limb, doing something different, or being in a way with people that makes maybe you feel uncomfortable. How do you regard yourself? So this is what we're working with today in this practice of awakening compassion for yourself. So this is one of the steps in radical acceptance, which is the work that we've been studied by Tara Brach, wonderful Buddhist insight meditation teacher. Tara had an experience with a student that I want to share with you that she explains in this chapter, and it's a man named Daniel. Daniel took a week-long meditation retreat with Tara, and he was struggling with it. And he wasn't struggling with the mindfulness part, the part where he's noticing what's going on. He was very well aware of what was going on in his feelings and his thinking. This is what he said. He said, when I meditate, whatever I'm thinking or feeling, I end up finding something wrong with it. During walking practice or eating, I start thinking I should be doing it better, more mindfully. When I'm doing the loving kindness meditation, my heart feels like a cold stone. That ever happened to you? Where everything just seems to be going wrong and you're just noticing, this isn't working, I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to sit here, oh, my mind's too busy. Getting into a lot of critical regard of ourselves. We can tend to fall into that in our practice. So Daniel was missing the wing of compassion. So in radical acceptance, there are two wings. And the wing that we've been focusing on in our series so far has mainly been mindfulness. And now we're going to add that second wing and really focus on the wing of compassion. So mindfulness and compassion are both necessary to experience radical acceptance. So I want to first really notice we're really being as compassionate with ourselves as we can be. Daniel said, I know the Buddhist teachings are based on compassion, but it's hard to imagine they'll ever rub off on me. If you're used to being self-judgmental, critical, it's a habit. It can be unlearned. Just even recognizing that is the first step. Self-awareness leading to self-knowledge. That knowledge, that greater knowledge of self, the true self. When we're vulnerable, when we're angry, frustrated, when we're fearful, we can experience emotional pain. Perhaps that showed up for you in the meditation today. The pain, so the self-judgment, criticizing, going right to I think about when I used to audition. I used to be an actor in New York, I would audition. So right after the audition, I would critique myself. I could have sang that note better. Maybe when I walked in the door, I should have smiled more, or shook hands, or whatever thing. And why was I doing that? Well, I recognized I was vulnerable, right? And I didn't want to feel that pain. So before I consider that they are judging me as sitting before a panel of people taking notes and interpreting how they're looking at me or what they might be thinking, I judge myself. Well, I'm going to take care of that. I'll judge myself. Then I will be free. I will put my armor up. I'll be free from any of their judgment. But I recognize that I was distancing myself from the pain of the experience. I was covering it up again and again and again with self-judgment. It's a coping mechanism. Resistance to our experience is a coping mechanism. We try to put it at arm's length. But the problem is when we push away parts of ourselves, we dig deeper into what Tarbrock calls the trance of unworthiness. We fall right into that same kind of victim consciousness that keeps us limited in our expression. We're limiting ourselves. So while we can be mindful and aware, we can be aware of the self-judgment and the criticism or the inner harshness, we must bring compassion and we must bring the other wing into it to really practice radical acceptance. So Tara says we cannot be accepting of our experience if our heart has hardened in fear and in blame. And we can blame other people. We can be in a situation and point the finger at everyone else. They're the problem. They're the ball. Look at how they're showing, what they're saying, what they're doing, right? Getting trapped in judgment for ourselves and others. Daniel was trapped in self-judgment. He could not see a way out. So the first way to move on, the first step to freedom is developing compassion for ourselves. So what does the word compassion literally mean? Compassion means to be with, to feel with, and to suffer with. To suffer with. In the Buddhist tradition, those who have realized the fullness of compassion are called a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva, an example for others of that heart of compassion in the world that the Buddha expressed. So when we allow our own hearts to be touched by suffering, our own suffering or another's suffering, our own natural compassion flowers like the lotus blossom, our own natural compassion flowers. We can think, oh, well, I just need to be positive and not pay attention to that. And that's a bypassing, right? When we recognize a pain, we don't want to feel it, we want to keep ourselves a distance from it. And the real spiritual path, the true path, the path to the greater expression that we really are here, that our soul really wants to have and experience and know because it is our true self, is allowing, knowing that God, the God of our being, is so much greater than that pain, and we can hold that pain, that suffering in that context of that awareness of the radiant heart of compassion. Sri Nisargadatta, I'm going to make sure I say his name right, Sri Nisargadatta. He is a person who was considered a bodhisattva. This is what he said. All you need is already within you. Heard that before, right? All you need is already within you. Only you must approach yourself with reverence. Imagine even approaching that pain, that criticism, anger, with reverence, with love. Self-condemnation and self-distrust are grievous errors. All I plead with you is this: make love of yourself perfect. To make love of yourself perfect, to love yourself as fully as you can, and that allows you to know how to love others, or to be in the flow of love as we feel compassion for others. So the very first step of cultivating compassion is not only to stop pushing away the suffering, running from the suffering, is to bring our deliberate attention to it, to really notice it, to make it welcome. We begin by being aware of our own pain, because once our hearts are open to that pain and we're tender with our own suffering, we can more easily extend that compassion to others. Or it may be that we can more easily connect to our tenderness by focusing on the suffering of others, and then bring attention to our own suffering. So see, and in different moments it may be different. It may be you can be with your own suffering, or maybe you can be with others. Whichever order doesn't matter, as long as you begin to touch into that to feel suffering, to relate to it with care, without resistance, and awaken the heart of compassion, the true heart of spirit. So this is how Daniel did it, how he moved from self-judgment into self-love. So he had to learn to relate to his pain with care rather than resistance. And so in that process, Tara asked him in the consultation part of the retreat how often or how long it had been that he'd perceived himself harshly. And he thought back through his adulthood, teenage years, childhood, and he said, I've been relating to myself harshly for as long as I can remember. That even with his mom, his parents went through he went through a painful divorce, but he had joined his mom in self-criticism, and when he went through his divorce, he was even more self-critical. He had chronic back pain, and he was self-critical of that. And so instead of acknowledging how intense this suffering was of these experiences, physical and relationships, he criticized himself for destroying his marriage and for not taking care of himself. And Tara asked him to pay attention to his body and to just to simply notice what was happening in his body when he was judging himself. And so he explained he felt a tightness in his chest, he felt a pain in his heart. When he allowed himself just to feel those sensations, he noticed he started to feel a deep sadness, and tears started welling up in him. And he said to her, it's hard to believe I've been carrying this much pain for so long. For so long. He'd been pushing it away and resisting it. And finally, he allowed himself to be with it in a compassionate way. And when he felt the pain, she invited him to put his hand on his heart and to say, I care about this suffering, like we did in the meditation. I care about this suffering. I just invite you to do that with me now. If it's comfortable for you, join with me. Put your hand on your heart and say to yourself, I care about this suffering. And as Thich Nhat Hanh instructed us, say to yourself, darling, I care about your suffering. Darling, I care about your suffering. Imagine calling yourself darling, loving yourself that tenderly. Extending compassion to ourselves in this way. It might feel embarrassing. It might bring up shame. We might feel like we're being needy, we're being self-indulgent. But it's a revolutionary act to regard ourselves tenderly with compassion. Maybe unknown in the realm of your experience of how you've navigated the world or people have taught you. So this is a revolutionary spiritual practice, and it begins to undo adverse messages that we've held about ourselves for our whole lifetime. It's so simple, and it's so healing. So just invite you to check in with your body once again now. Just close your eyes, check in, notice where you feel any pain. Place your hand on your heart. Say, I care about your suffering. Care about your suffering. Feeling our heart transforming suffering into compassion. As we become the holder of our sorrows and also the vulnerable one being held. So I want to share with you now, if you bring your attention back, about Daniel, how things worked out for him in this process of being with this. He had to be with his suffering for a few days of the retreat, to be with it. And Tara noticed, because he was sitting in the front of the rows of meditators, that his hand was on his heart a lot. He was with it. Until he felt the painful knots and the wounds of his youth unravel in him. And by the end of the retreat, he came to have another meeting with her, and his whole expression changed. His countenance appeared radiant to her. She said his body looked relaxed, his eyes were bright. that he said he still recognized self-judgment showing up, blame was showing up, but that he was no longer imprisoned by it. He was no longer imprisoned by it. He could be with it without letting it take over his being. So recognize if you, like Daniel, have become addicted to judging, mistrusting yourself. And if you have, know that any gesture of care that you give to yourself, to your wounded places, will bring about radical acceptance, radical transformation. Our suffering is the gateway to compassion that frees up our heart, frees it up. Tara says, when we become the holder of our own sorrows, our old roles as judge, adversary, or victim are no longer being fueled, no longer putting energy in rebuilding that aspect of ourself again and again, letting it go, building up compassion and love. I think of a situation I want to share with you that I had last week. I had a photo. Do we have it on the slide? I'd like to share it if we're able to pull that up now. Do we have it? Get it? Were we able to get it into the slideshow? Is there a photo in there? Anyone? No? There it is. Oh, wonderful. So that image, it's a little cut off, but I can tell you about it because that's my daughter, Felicity. And up on the second, I don't know if you see it here. No, I think it got trimmed, but just to let you know, there's a second floor, and on the second floor you could see a person in the window. So that was last week. I went up to New York with my daughter to see my dad. My dad is in a nursing home, and we stayed with my sister and my nephew. We had a great time, and when we went to go to the nursing home, there were no visitations allowed. There were 17 COVID cases in the nursing home, so they had canceled any scheduled visitations. And so the best that we could do is stand outside in mass and see my dad up in his window on the second floor. And what was amazing is that he was just beaming love at us. He was so happy. We were there, beaming love at us. My dad has dementia, and he wanted to know why can't they come up to us. My daughter wanted to know why couldn't she go to see Grandpa. And it was an opportunity where it could start getting angry. COVID, this, and why weren't people vaccinated? Whatever kind of story we could get into to push the pain away, to resist it, to just not feel our feelings. And instead, I talked to my daughter, and I could see she looked sad, and I said, it's okay to be sad. This is sad that we can't go up and see Grandpa. This is sad. And we just sat there and cried. We cried because it was painful. It was painful. We came all the way to New York. We couldn't see my dad. We'd see him in a window. And thinking about hundreds or thousands of grandkids, children who can't see their parents, their grandparents now because of the current situation. And that's painful. And we can feel compassion for them and a connection that we're all going through this together, that it's not our own isolated experience, but a collective experience of children and grandchildren growing up and not getting to see their grandparent. So just feeling the pain. There's a beautiful Sufi teaching on how pain is not personal. It's an intrinsic part of being alive. And this is a teaching. Overcome any bitterness that you may have because you are not up to the magnitude of the pain that was entrusted to you. Like the mother of the world who carries the pain of the world in her heart and therefore endowed with a certain measure of cosmic pain. So like the mother of the world, the pain is entrusted to her, that our pain is entrusted to us. Our anger, our fear, our disappointment, our depression, are entrusted to us so that we can experience compassion, to enfold them, to be gentle with ourselves, to dedicate ourselves to awakening through the experience, to carry our pain with love, with compassion, an open heart, rather than the bitterness of resistance that we can so easily fall into again and again. And then our hearts open and we become an endless sea of compassionate love in the world. We become like the mother of the world, a compassionate presence that can hold the pain that shows up in our lives with tenderness as it rises and passes like waves of suffering. We can hold it with love, with kindness, with understanding. Go forth and be loving. Namaste. And we welcome Reverend Karen and Reverend Sonia as we move into our time of discussion of our topic tonight, awakening to compassion for ourselves. And I trust that you both have much experience with this and your own process, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, first I want to applaud your beautiful message this evening. Thank you so much for giving us that opportunity, not only the practice of loving ourselves, but the teaching, behind it. And I love that. The only reason I didn't applaud over there is I was making notes so that there's so many things I picked up from your talk that I wanted to bring it up here and just kind of talk about some of the things you said. The self-judgment, the habit of protection, that we may have about it, that it is, I certainly relate, I anticipate, somehow a kick in the stomach or a judgment, not being aware that it is really my own discomfort or dissatisfaction or unhappiness with something that I've said or done or failed to say or do or whatever, that I assume and project others will feel. And so, it's really hard for me to determine, is it truly, it is self-protection, but it's also self-attack first, And so it just doesn't serve. And while you were speaking, it occurred to me that this judgment, certainly that goes on in my head, is intellectual. It's mental. It's not my heart. It's not like I'm grieving that I missed opportunity or I could have, should have, because there would have been so much better. You know what I mean? In a way, just really feeling. I'm actually just logicking it, thinking it, attacking, basically. And just that awareness is freedom. That's the first moment of freedom. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for the story that you shared with you and Felicity and looking at her and saying this is sad, because we have to give ourselves permission to have our feelings and give our children permission to have their feelings. That was so beautiful and heart-opening. And I was reminded of how I haven't been practicing compassion with myself. Just today, during the pandemic, I decided in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to jog. I'm going to get in shape. And I did, and then all of a sudden I started to lose my way, just feeling the weight of this and just lose my way. So my self-talk has been, you can only jog 5 minutes now. You were jogging 30 minutes. And I was, been doing my stomach crunches and like, you've gained weight, you've gained weight, you've gained weight. Why did you gain weight? And just constant. And then today I did my stomach crunches and I said, you know what? I'm going to love my stomach just as it is. I bore a child here in this body. I'm going to love it just as it is. And that's a huge shift for me, probably for many of us. And it's a practice, and it's just a constant practice, right? To shift from that judgment, especially if it's, somehow been ingrained in us, right? And just acknowledge it. It's there, and I'm going to love myself. So thank you for the reminder, and thank you for it's not always easy, and it takes pain, and it's all good.
Isn't it amazing how there's always something that can be fixed or better, improved? I've thought about that. Am I going to be on my deathbed and recognize I was just trying to fix myself the whole time? Right. Oh man, I want to have more fun than that.
That great observation. Like when have we arrived good enough? How long does it take? To be self-accepting, and and in that same vein, what Sri Nisargadatta said around, really being, what is it, perfectly, or what was it, perfect self-love? It wasn't exactly it, but love of self perfectly.
Yes, make love of yourself perfect.
Perfect, yeah, make love of yourself perfect. And I really kind of latched onto that as perfection is my trigger. It's like I don't use that word around myself because I'll go to the races with it, and I'll go to the wall with it. I'll go as far as I can carry it to extreme, and it's never good enough. It's never there, but so I usually leave it aside. But what I heard in make love of yourself perfect, spoken by a bodhisattva, is that in fact the perfection of that is the wholeness of it. And how beautiful that we practice with ourselves first to take the wholeness of who I am, which is to your point of getting on the, taking it all the way to your deathbed, that now am I good enough? It's like, what if I just stopped right now and said, you know what? This is the zenith, This is Karen Tudor. This is what Karen Tudor's going to be. Hey, folks, this is it. Yes, I've got stuff, dragging on the ground behind me. Yes, I've got toilet paper on my shoe. Yes, I'm a mess. Yes, but it's still, like this whole arena. And there's some really brilliant, beautiful things in me too. And I would probably name different things than you might see. And you would see different problems with me than I would find, So it's not, there's nothing objectively true. It's perception, and it's how we react and how we interact with one another, and how much we can accept of ourselves. And so practicing with myself, true compassion is really acceptance. It's really making space without judgment that, well, so you got some of this stuff going on over here, and you got some stuff, this stuff going on. But the wholeness of you is really lovable, it's really okay. And so when I can do that with me, I can do that with you. No sweat, no problem. I can do that. So what a beautiful practice and an awareness, make love of self perfect. I'm carrying that away. So thank you for that.
There was a friend of mine that went to ministerial school with. His daughter had drawn with crayon on a wall, and he could have said any kind of thing about that, right? And he had made one of those little plaques like in an art gallery and put her name and a name of the work and the date on it like it was a piece of art. And I thought, that's the kind of parent that not only I want to be, but to be to myself. Like, I could take my mess and say, that was a piece of art right there. I meant to do that. In some way, to learn and grow through it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So much here, so much here. I've been reading Karen Armstrong and what she says about compassion in 12 Steps to Living a Compassionate Life. And one of the things that she says that's so beautiful is because she's a comparative religious scholar. And what she says is that when you look at all the religions together, it's all just the main teaching is compassion. That's the main teaching. And like you say, compassion with self to practice compassion with others. And she gives the history, which I really got into, of the Greek drama tradition. And that whole tradition, and I know you know, being a theater background, the whole tradition of watching theater together, that the Greeks, was so that they could feel another suffering, so that they could get in their shoes and feel another suffering. And so I think about the times when I don't want to watch the movies that make me feel. Because I don't want to feel. I want to watch the light stuff right now. But those are just as wonderful because they do help us connect back to the compassion. And when we feel it with ourselves, when we put ourselves in another person's shoes, then we're going to connect and we're going to build bridges with one another and create a better world, which is what we all want. Yeah.
I loved what you did with Felicity in your father's visit. So lovely. And, your self-awareness of how you wanted to respond, the anger you probably did feel that, we've come all this way and we can't get closer than that, and he doesn't understand. And it's almost like worse. He sees us, but he doesn't understand why we can't come up, and neither can she, and just breaks my heart. And your awareness that anger wasn't the place you wanted to stay with. Instead, how sad it is, how just really sad that's what's going on right now, and that it kept you away. And what a beautiful lesson you taught your daughter, and thereby all of us, by sharing that with us this evening. And I'm going to take that one away too, because sometimes for me it's the other way around. When I'm angry, I cry. When I get mad, when I really get really mad, I cry. And it's not, they're hot tears, because I'm really furious. And what I need to do is stop and feel the heat. And as soon as I do, the tears dry up. And then I get clear about what it is that I'm angry about. So it isn't one thing is always this, and it's masking that all the time. In each of us, it can be different ways we've coped, right? And so that was another aha tonight, in hearing how it was that you moved from anger to sadness, because that was the underlying feeling. And what a great lesson. So thank you.
Thank you, Tara Brock.
Sonia, thank you so much for being with us this evening. Thank you. And so this is the time where we move into prayer together. And it's our opportunity to utilize the field of compassion that we have created among us, both, here in this room and near and far, and in time, across time, because those of you who are watching in your now, you're watching us, you're participating with us in some future to us now moment. We feel you here now. So in knowing that in spirit there is no time, there is no before, no after, but only now, we recognize that what is among us and between us and from us and through us is actually just pure love, pure spirit. And so in this field of spirit, we now release the conditions and the names of people that we love and care for, conditions we would like to see changed, people we would like to see given a higher vibration of experience, whatever that is, whatever we'd like to see for them. And so as we breathe together once again, we unite. We unite across the waves of light and life and love, across the waves of being, and into this field among us. We breathe and surrender conditions and the names of people we love and care about that we would like to see changed, upgraded, higher vibration, loved. And we speak those into the field now. And so as we affirm wholeness and healing, as we affirm refreshing rains where there were once droughts, and rains that put out the fires, and rains that finally stop the floods, and wars that finally burn themselves out and replace themselves with community and living and loving again. And wisdom for our leaders all over the world, and hearts of compassion, for that is where true wisdom resides. And for all the good, and for all the love, and for all the power, and for all the glory, and for every good thing that brings joy and peace. We are truly grateful, and gratitude draws it all to us and to those we love. And so it is. Amen.
As we join together now in our metta practice, let us remember the deep suffering of people on our planet, of sentient beings, and know that our time together has served to be a healing presence. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be of benefit to all.
Namaste, namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, 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 go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, the light in me sees the light in you. Namaste, namaste, go shine your light into the world. Namaste.